Valtteri Bottas is staying at Mercedes. Nico Hülkenberg is out and Esteban Ocon is going to take his place at Renault. Lewis Hamilton is in the fast food business. And why is Marcus Ericsson at Spa? Welcome to the PitBox. Oh, I've got to tell you, it is great to be back, sort of at home in a way. The summer break is over in terms of the Formula One teams, and all of these racing drivers just have that kind of life where they, I don't know, they're on yachts, they're somewhere, and they've always got a suntan. I'm just looking over here at Gary Formato, and Gary, you're a racing driver. Tell me where you spent your holiday.
I've just had an amazing holiday in Cyprus. I've got to tell you. So, tan is just a part of it, but had a great time. But no racing, didn't see any racing drivers there either, so they definitely didn't hang out where we did. But nonetheless.
Listen, it's great to be here. Unfortunately, you will know that Vic Maharaj is not with us today because he's already down at GTC. There, you can see him behind us. How's it, Vic? Nice to see you there. He's ready for GTC Racing, and of course Gary's the boss of GTC Racing, all taking place in East London. So tell us a little bit about this weekend.
Yeah, we're down there this weekend in East London, as you just said. One of the fastest and craziest tracks in South Africa, a real old school circuit, so a circuit that all our drivers enjoy racing on. And I'm sure it's going to be a great battle. We've got Simon Moss leading the championship in the Audi, so you've got Toyota, Marco van threatening for a win. A couple of other people, so the racing is going to be good. It's become very close now, GDC.
It's great racing. If you're down in the area, get down there as well. Now, in Formula One, we have so many penalties. Some of them are justified, some of them are very, very debatable. So we've decided here on the PitBox, and we're throwing out the challenge to Colin Hastie and Gary van der Spey from Waved Yellow. Their show's on a Wednesday night. So Vic is not here with us, unfortunately, but we're going to have a little swear jar. And anytime any of us use the word absolutely, we're going to have to put 10 Rand into the swear jar. And Vic, you're lucky you're not here tonight because Vic is the champion of absolutely.
He is indeed.
Yeah. So now our challenge is also to the Waved Yellow guys. Anytime Colin Hastie says the word lacquer, come on, Colin, you're actually going to put 20 bucks into that jar, and then hopefully at the end of the year we'll have ourselves a great Christmas party as well. Listen, we've got Fritz on our production side and Henk, and it's great to be here at the PitBox. We're coming to you live from the raceday.tv studios in Pretoria, and it's all about the world of Formula One. So let's get going. We're going to go through all of the teams and the drivers so far as to how they've done. Let's start off, Gary, with the Williams team, of course, and of course that is our two drivers of Robert Kubica and of course George Russell.
Yeah, look, I mean, for me, Williams has been all about George Russell, and I think, unfortunately, you can see the results for yourself there. I mean, he's really trounced Robert Kubica this year. It was great to see Kubica back, a very emotional story with the comeback that he's been involved with.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, I think it just shows that George Russell, the new talent, the young kids out there, it's hard to be at the top in Formula One now.
And also, I mean, the irony of the whole thing is, I mean, Kubica is the one who's actually got the point, but I mean, George Russell has completely destroyed him. Whether or not that point is still going to stay, we'll have to check. I think it's sometime in September they go to a tribunal. Alfa Romeo are going to contest what happened on the German Grand Prix. But, I mean, Robert Kubica, and we'll talk to him a little bit about on the silly season as well. Let's have a look at our next team, and then, of course, that is the Haas team. Two drivers here, Kevin Magnussen, Romain Grosjean. Pretty close when it comes to their qualifying and race conditions, but Magnussen having the majority of the points, and we'll talk about Grosjean in the silly season as well. But Gary, flattered to impress us so far this year.
Yeah, I think so. I think Grosjean, in my mind, has been given a chance by Günther Steiner to sort of prove his worth. He didn't have a great season last year. Magnussen improved in leaps and bounds. And I think Magnussen's the kind of guy you probably want to stick with and then see who else is on the market. Grosjean, remember, was touted for a Ferrari driver all those years back.
Yeah.
I think has underperformed on his expectation.
Yeah, no, it is a little bit of a problem. And also, I mean, if you look at the Haas team, rich energy with the controversies that we've had this whole season when it comes to the sponsorship deal. They're saying they're going to have it all rectified by Singapore. That doesn't bode well for a team of that kind of caliber and the ownership Gene Haas as well.
Well, I was going to say, I think for Gene Haas to be associated with the brand like they were involved with, which was sort of dubious from the onset when they launched their sponsorship or announced their sponsorship with Haas, it doesn't really make sense. And then Gene Haas can carry this thing on his own and make it happen. And I think it'd be better. You just sort of feel that it would be better for them just to carry on like they were and can bring reputable people, because they are reputable people. Gene Haas is a reputable person.
Exactly.
You just don't think it didn't fit well with the team.
Yeah, another team that's also failed to deliver so far this year. It was bought out by Lawrence Stroll, his son Lance Stroll there. We've got Sergio Perez as well. That's the Racing Point team. And I mean, qualifying Lance Stroll has really, really struggled. But in racing conditions, I mean, we saw it last year as well. I mean, this guy can perform.
He can perform, but I think also, Perez has started lower than he's used to being starting over the last couple of seasons. It's put him under more pressure. We know that he does. He's not scared to have a go at overtaking. So he gets into tussles, which I think, obviously have looked, not worked for him in race results.
Okay, there we go. Looking at the Racing Point team. Then, of course, well, so close to my heart, and that's the Alfa Romeo team. Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi. I've got to say, Gary, without Kimi Raikkonen over there, I think Alfa Romeo would be right at the bottom with Williams in terms of points.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. The car is actually pretty decent. What do you make of Giovinazzi?
Well, look, Giovinazzi at the beginning of his career, he needed to beat Kimi Raikkonen. I think it's pretty simple. If you're going to be looking for a top driver in Formula One, Ferrari obviously is a link to Ferrari. He needed to beat Kimi Raikkonen. It hasn't happened. Kimi Raikkonen has outperformed him more often than not. Yes, he had some issues at the beginning of the year. Giovinazzi, the car wasn't. There was a couple of problems there, but Raikkonen's got on with the job. And for a guy that's doing it as a hobby. How nice is that to be able to be in Formula One for a hobby, and after making all your money and doing everything else. He just seems to be enjoying himself, and he's doing a fantastic job with that Alpha.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and he's going to be there next year as well. Now, our next team, at the beginning of the season, I sat there and said, watch out, these are the guys I think are going to do something, and that, of course, is Renault.
Yeah.
Oi, Gary, it's one of those where you just sit and go, sorry, got that one horribly wrong. Looking at Ricciardo versus Hülkenberg, the news today, Hülkenberg is going to lose his seat. But it hasn't been much between them. It's not as though Danny Ricciardo has come there and just blown the socks off Nico Hülkenberg.
No, in fact, in the beginning of the season, I think he had some worrying moments. Hülkenberg was very quick. In fact, I think I paced him a couple of times in qualifying. It took him time to get going and settle into the Renault team. But look, I still believe Hülkenberg is world class. There's no two ways about it. But the car itself, to have some McLaren beating you with your own engine is a bit of a problem.
Let's stay with Renault, Gary. And I mean, you've got Ferrari, you've got Mercedes, you now have Honda, which is Red Bull, but you've got Renault. You've got three major manufacturers in the world. Renault have missed a trick. I mean, they were the ones right at the beginning who said, no, we must go into this hybrid technology. Mercedes followed suit. Ferrari was sort of, in a way, forced to follow them. But Renault, is it because Carlos Ghosn has gone from the top there? Is it Cyril Abiteboul? I mean, look at the problems that Red Bull, Christian Horner and Cyril have had over the years. There's no love lost between those two guys. And I mean, that was the end of that relationship. But one would expect Renault to be performing and giving us a much better kind of quality of car.
Well, I think if you look back to the Flavio days of Renault, the team was run as a racing team, and sort of what's going on now in Renault. And listen, I mean, I stand to correction, we're not involved to that level, but you sort of get the impression that it's like Toyota was in Formula One. It's very much a corporate-driven exercise, and it doesn't really help to go motor racing like that. The motor racing team's got to be a motor racing team, and that's why you see a team like Red Bull with Christian Horner at the helm there, making decisions, doing what they do quickly to get the job done. And again, it's all about people. You've got to get the right people in place. And it's about getting that team to gel. So, they obviously don't have that working for them.
Yeah. And amazingly, when you look at the teams, you wouldn't expect a team like Toro Rosso to be ahead of someone like Renault. So kudos to the whole Red Bull concern and Toro Rosso, number one, for striking the deal with Honda. And then also picking, one would say, 4 good dish drivers.
Yeah.
But Alexander Albon and Danny Kvyat have done an incredible job for Toro Rosso this year.
Yeah, they certainly have. And I think you've got to just say the Honda thing, going to Toro Rosso last year, spending a year, getting it all lined out, and it was an absolute way to go. I mean, it was a no-brainer at the end of the day. And this team has also just come on in leaps and bounds. Well, it's not that far behind Red Bull. Which is actually outstanding. So, yeah, they've got great drivers, but just so that whole program, as we said just now, it's run with racing in mind, and I think that's what we see here.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. We'll talk a little bit more about Alexander Albon and Danny Kvyat in a short while. We just want to go through all of the teams as they've performed with the current drivers at present. Then we get into the top three. Red Bull. Wow, what a turnaround. And we've spoken about it now with Toro Rosso, but what a turnaround. And Max Verstappen, I mean, how has this guy grown? And he's only 21 years old.
Well,
wow.
It's a problem in a way for Red Bull, because on the one side they've got this outstanding driver, and then you look at Pierre Gasly, who was highly rated, did a great job, I think, in Toro Rosso last year.
Yeah.
He hasn't been able to do anything with Max. It's the Max show at Red Bull, and it's a nice problem to have. But yeah, I think, again, also with the Honda engine, master stroke. There was no two ways about it. And I always sort of felt they'd win 3 Grand Prix this year. So I'm happy to say they're on track. They won another one. I think I was on the money there with that one. But yeah, what a great move.
Completely. I mean, they've won 2 already. Max Verstappen has just been phenomenal throughout the whole season. Then the top 2 teams, and Ferrari only 40-odd points ahead of Red Bull. Ferrari pre-season testing, everyone hyped up about how fantastic it was, and got to the first race. They got thumped in Australia, didn't even make the podium. They could have, should have, maybe won 3 races. Yes, Vettel won on the track in Canada, but got the penalty. Bahrain, Leclerc, unfortunately, his car let him down. Baku, unfortunately, they also got caught out. But somewhere along the line, and there's been a lot of criticism about Mattia Binotto, but it seems as though he inherited, in a way, a stillborn car after the pre-season testing.
Yeah, it just unfortunately done nothing, But I just look at the driver stats that we saw on screen now, and I just sort of said, well, I've got $35 million on the left and $3.5 million on the right, and they're actually pretty equal. I mean, Leclerc's been good, but I think he's been trying to carry the car, trying to do too much of the car. So we've seen him make a couple of mistakes, and that's definitely hurt him. So it wasn't what I sort of expected at the beginning of the year. He seems to have a cool head, but the mistakes have come as the struggles sort of continue throughout the year.
The pressure of being a Ferrari driver, Gary, is immense. Vettel has been there a couple of seasons. He's a 4-time world champion. I mean, besides Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton, Vettel is the 3rd most successful racing driver on the track. Charles Leclerc has had moments of genius, but I agree with you. Stepping in as 21-year-old, the youngest ever driver to come into a Ferrari team, it's massive pressure. I mean, we've got 9 races left of the season. How do you think he's thinking about going into these races, knowing that Ferrari have yet to win a race this season? There's huge expectation in Italy and all of the Tifosi around the world. I mean, this is big pressure for a young 21-year-old.
It's big pressure. It was always going to be big pressure, but it's the kind of opportunity, of course, you're never going to turn down. But I think, from looking at the rest of the season, it's quite simple for him, actually. He's looking at Sebastian Vettel. He's got to go and race Sebastian Vettel. We know the car's not good enough to win races on a continual basis, or at all, in fact, at this point in time. So he's just got to look at Vettel and compete with his teammates and make sure that he sort of solidifies himself in the team. And goes from there. That's his job, which is pretty okay. Vettel, on the other hand, is being paid to win the championship, and he's not going to do that at all this year. They'd be happy to win a race. So I think the pressure really right now is on Vettel, because you've got Leclerc. That's really he's not far behind. And that's what Vettel and that's the Vettel and Leclerc battle.
Well, they go to Belgium this week, and of course that was where Sebastian Vettel did win last year. I think they'll be hoping for much of the same. And then, of course, the top team has been since 2014. I mean, these guys and this team is just incredible. Although they did show a human side of them in Germany with a complete mess when it came to the pits. So they are human, and they do make mistakes. But looking at it, 9 victories to 3. Bottas started the year unbelievably. But Gary, also must be so difficult to be a teammate against a guy like Lewis Hamilton.
I think you've got to be realistic about it when you're there. And it's a kind of Eddie Irvine, Michael Schumacher situation. Eddie Irvine gave up the guys and said, well, look, I'm the best number 2 driver in the world right now. And that's kind of like, unfortunately for Bottas, is how he's got to look at it, because I think Hamilton is just relentless. I mean, he's at the top of his game. There's no pressure on him anymore. I mean, he's a huge name worldwide, even outside of Formula One, building brands, building everything that he's doing. And then he gets into the car, and you'd expect all that to get to him and for him not to perform, but he's performing better than ever. He's cool. On days when they're not winning Grand Prix, he's there, he's scoring points. Yes, as you said, they've had 1 off day. Whereas everybody else has had 5 or 6 off days. And that's the difference with the team there. So there's a team that's working well. They've got everything going for them. And yes, they've had the advantage of the engine throughout the hybrid era. There's no doubt about that. But the guys are making the absolute most of it, and that's why we see what we're seeing.
Yeah. Speaking of Lewis Hamilton, right at the beginning of the show, I said he's gone into the fast food business. He's launched a plant-based burger chain called Next Burger. I'm not sure if he's the entire owner of it or he's just lending his name to it, but since 2017 he's become, I wouldn't say vegan, but he's become plant-based eater since then. So, I mean, this guy's got diverse Tommy Hilfiger, he's got so many bows, he's got so many other external things that he's doing. But when he needs to perform, this guy's unbelievable. I also, you know, Gary, when I think of a guy like Lewis Hamilton, and you know, we all watched through the Schumacher era, even the Prost era, and you went, Alain Prost, 51 victories, you went, there's no chance that these records are going to get broken. All of a sudden, Michael Schumacher obliterated that by 40 races. Lewis Hamilton is only 9 races away from beating 91 race victories in Formula One. I mean, can he get to 120?
Look, he can get to a lot more. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to come up here. I'm going to come up for Michael Schumacher here. And obviously, in those days, there was a lot less Grand Prix. So you've got to take it on an average basis and have a look at the percentages. But having said that, you know, the time frame that Hamilton has in Formula One, you know, he could beat that record even on a percentage basis, which I mean is absolutely phenomenal. And I think, you know, Formula One is looking for that as well. He's doing a great job for Formula One in terms of marketing it to new markets and so forth. So, you know, and he's a performer. There's no two ways about it. I mean, I enjoy watching Hamilton. I mean, I really do. And I just, you know, you've got to just understand where the man is at and what he's done. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, he's incredible. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, 7, you know, at the end of the season, he'll definitely have 6 world championships. You know, 2021 is different. And next year, Gary, it was announced today, 22 races. In 2020 on the Formula One calendar, 7 back-to-back races. I mean, it's going to be extraordinary. I remember the days we had 14 races. We had to wait sometimes a month and a bit before the next race. Now all of a sudden we've got one just about every second weekend. I mean, it's extraordinary how the sport has changed.
Exactly, and just shows you the demand for it. And, you know, tracks and countries are willing to put up the money to hold Grand Prix. It just shows you what it's becoming. And you've got to say Liberty's done a great job in Formula One, really. I think open up, changed the face a little bit of it. I think it's looking good. So the accessibility is not maybe where everybody would like, but it's certainly a lot better than it was. And they're putting on a great show.
I think you're 100% right. They've had a lot of stick from a lot of people with, the races are getting too boring and it's the same winner, whatever. This happens in motor racing at the premier class.
It does.
You look at the world of MotoGP. Yes, the last 2 races, all of a sudden we've had 2 other winners besides Marc Marquez. But besides that, he's dominated every single race this whole season. That's what happens when you're in the premier class when it comes to motor racing.
No, absolutely. You know, and you can have good races and bad races. It is what it is, and I think you've just got to appreciate the job that's being done by the team, as I said just now. You know, so that's what we've got to look into, and I think that's what Liberty are trying to do also is give us some more of the background. Unfortunately, Mercedes and Ferrari weren't part of Drive to Survive on Netflix last year. They are going to be this year. So for the 2019 season, you are going to see those 2 teams in it. And I think to give the people more of an inside view as to what's happening, and I think I know it's created a lot of Formula One fans that weren't Formula One fans before, but we want to see the big names. So we want to get behind, see what's happening with Lewis Hamilton, see what's happening with Sebastian Vettel, the frustration of actually fighting for a championship, because that's where it really gets tense.
And apparently, when they were filming for Mercedes at Netflix at the German Grand Prix, where they had that calamitous race for Mercedes, Lewis said, no, you're not going to put any of that kind of stuff there.
But that's what we want to see. Come on, Lewis, don't let us down.
Hopefully they'll share some of the behind things as well. Listen, do us a favor. We are on Facebook Live. We're also on YouTube, on the PitBox on YouTube. Lots of people coming through, which is great to see. So do us a favor, keep them in. If you've got any questions, then throw them in here, and Gary and I, of course, will try and answer them during the course of this live stream broadcast, our first one, which is great. Nice to have you along. I'm also on Twitter as well, so at F1 Sasha, you can check out that as well. All right, there we go. Those are the 10 top teams, or the 10 teams in Formula One so far, and how they've fared up until this coming weekend. Still to come, of course, we're going to look forward this Grand Prix in Belgium. We've also got a little trivia question for you in our Throwback Thursday. But of course, Gary, it is time for I suppose, the silly season
Yeah.
in Formula One. Always this time of the year, contracts up for renewal. Usually we get to Monza and we get Ferrari announcing a couple of things. But I don't think there's a big surprise, big news that came out today in Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. And that, of course, is Bottas versus Ocon. And I think that's what people have been saying. Well, is Esteban Ocon going to take the seat of Valtteri Bottas? From my point of view, I think Mercedes have made the right call here. I think they would have been silly to drop Valtteri Bottas, which they haven't done, and they've kept him for another season.
It's a great move. You've got a good team there. I think Bottas knows he can win on occasion, and most importantly, he's good enough to take points from everybody else. He's up there. He's fighting, which is what the team wants. I think he knows he's not going to beat Hamilton in a hurry, so and he's comfortable with that, and it works well. To have Ocon in there, Ocon would have been trying to prove a point, and a whole learning process would have had to have taken place. So definitely, I think the right move.
Yeah, a very good move. But we also had the news that Esteban Ocon now has been released from Mercedes, or loaned, let's put it that way. Because don't forget, Esteban Ocon is actually managed by Toto Wolff.
Yeah.
So he's been loaned now, and he's been given a contract now at Renault, going to be replacing Nico Hülkenberg. Great to have him in Formula One, and you know, these kind of drivers, with the lack of testing that we have nowadays, Gary, you can't keep them out for too long. Him another season on the sidelines would not have worked for Ocon.
Well, it's a nail-biting season. I think the first Grand Prix was the most stressful Grand Prix of his life. I mean, seeing Bottas doing what he was doing out there at that point in time, he must have thought, well, there goes my seat. And remember, Mercedes-Benz held Ocon back last year from signing for Renault this year.
That's right.
So you must have had some worrying moments about it. So when I saw the news today, my first thought was, well, where's Ocon going to go? And then of course the Renault news came out. But the kids worked hard. He's got himself going. He hasn't come from much. He, got into Formula One. So hats off to that. And let's see what he can do in Renault. I think Ricciardo, let's see. Maybe he's got a hassle in his hands.
Well, if you look at what Hülkenberg has done to Danny Ricciardo, you've got to believe Ocon can do the same, if not more. So it's going to be very interesting to watch Danny Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon next year. So in my opinion, it leaves us with 3 drivers in the mix of perhaps going to lose places or swap around. The one is Nico Hülkenberg. I still believe is way too talented not to be in Formula One, and might replace that man on the top of your screen, Romain Grosjean. Okay, let's talk about those two first. Haas, you got to believe Kevin Magnussen going to keep his position over there. Grosjean, we mentioned a little bit earlier, he can be blisteringly quick at times, but he's just not consistent enough.
No, he hasn't been. As I said, I expected more from Grosjean over his career. He seems to also develop into a driver that complains a lot. There's a lot of talk on the radio, and there's been
Ericsson hit him.
There's lots been going on, and it always just smacks of frustration from his part. I think he understands that he's not getting to the point where he'd like to be. But Magnussen, on the other hand, I think a little less pressure, a little less expectation. Remember, he sort of almost rebuilt himself at Haas after the McLaren and Renault seasons. I think in last year he was phenomenal. This year as well, he's been really quick. So Grosjean was always going to be under pressure. And Hülkenberg, if I was Hülkenberg right now, surely Haas is going to look like your best option.
Yeah, I agree with that. Fritz, if we can bring that picture just back again, because let's have a look at Robert Kubica. And Gary, you mentioned it so correctly, such an emotional time for him to come back. I mean, the guy basically doesn't have a right hand. I mean, it's quite extraordinary that he can even drive the car. He scored his point. You can't see, I mean, Williams are having such a miserable time of it. George Russell is getting the most out of that car, and Kubica really is not doing anything. They've got to look at the opportunity of giving somebody else a shot. Now, the question is, who goes to Williams? Would Hülkenberg, if Haas decide to say, let's keep Grosjean and Magnussen for another year, does Hülkenberg sit there and put his hand up? He had a great time at Williams, but does he want to end off his career in maybe perhaps the worst car we've seen in Formula One?
I think he's got to push for the Haas drive. I don't think you want to be at Williams right now if you're Nico Hülkenberg. We've seen this so many times in Formula One. A team falls off. They're going to need a lot to come back. And remember now they've entered this season with a car that didn't work. Now develop an entirely new car for next year while you're trying to run a season with a car that's dismal, is very, very difficult. So I think a guy like it doesn't need to be there.
Who are you going to replace Robert Kubica with? I mean, if I'm looking at some of the Formula 2 drivers, Luca Giotti, you've got the young Dutch driver, De Vries, you've got Latifi. Latifi.
Well, they used with McLaren. We didn't speak about McLaren just now.
We did, yeah.
Okay, Sainz and Norris.
Oh, we did. We actually missed him. Sorry, my apology. We'll get back to that.
So Latifi's dad's bought into McLaren to the tune of £200 million or dollars or whatever it is.
And now you've got these two brilliant drivers in Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. And, we'll get back to that in a short while. So it was my fault. So Fritz, find image number 7. Oh, there we go. There, look how sharp Fritz is over there. I mean, in qualifying, Lando Norris, I mean, this kid has just been, and he's 18 years old, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just done an outstanding job. I mean, I didn't really, we saw him racing in GP2, and let's see how the kid goes. A lot of talk about him coming from a wealthy family, as they do, But I mean, hell, he's really performed, and it's been outstanding. But in the races, Sainz is bagged those points, and I think it's important for the team. As we know, it's worth a lot of money, those points as well. So it's critical they score points. But I mean, what a turnaround for McLaren! What a turnaround. Alonso left,
and look
what's
changed.
Going.
And amazingly, Alonso left. Honda has got decided, well, we're out of here as well. They get this Renault engine. They have the first couple of races, they have a couple of mechanical failures. All of a sudden, they've turned around. There seems to be a completely different kind of philosophy. And also, we've got to say, the introduction of Andreas Seidel from Porsche.
Exactly.
That has made a massive difference. I think they're back to that sort of Ron Dennis way of running, and everything must be where it has to be. You've got to take your hat off to McLaren.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it.
I still don't like the colour.
Yeah, no, look, it's okay. The orange, I got the orange, maybe the blue, but
you know what? When you go and see it at the track, it looks better than it looks on TV.
All right. So I mean, from a driver point of view, I mean, yes,
Kubica. Who are they going to put there?
Well, Kubica's got to go. Let's be honest.
He has to.
I mean, let's just call that one as it is. I mean, he's not
performing, and if Williams are going to continue in Formula One, they've got a super talented George Russell. They need somebody else there who's not a half a second or 7/10 behind all of the time.
So the big question, it is a good question, that, and I think if you're looking how Lando Norris is going, we're speaking about him. Look at George Russell, how he's going. You've got Albon, doing what he's doing. You've got all these new guys coming through from GP2. I think you've got to give the young guys a crack. I think the big thing is you've got to look at it and say, why didn't Toto Wolff place Ocon with Williams and the Mercedes engine? And I think it tells you the story that car and the team is not where it needs to be.
Okay. One thing we haven't got a graphic of here, but I've just thought of it now. Giovinazzi, first season, he did have a little run with Sauber back in the days and crashed on both times. You've got Mick Schumacher in the wings. He has had his first victory, albeit in the reverse grid, but he still went out there and actually won the race. Does Giovinazzi, do we see him have another season?
Well, it's such a cutthroat game, and if you, the team manager, sitting there, you've given the guy 2 chances now. You've given him a full season. As I said earlier on, he had to beat Kimi Raikkonen. I mean, that was the job that he had. If he wants to be a Formula 1 driver, he needed to beat Kimi. Kimi's at the end of his career. Kimi's 40 years old or whatever he is right now, and he's outshining you. It's not. You can't have that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And the one thing I must say, if I was the bosses at Alfa Romeo and their holding company, I would keep Kimi Raikkonen for as long as possible.
Of course.
He's the greatest marketing that Alfa Romeo have had in the last 20 years. And he's performing. He's doing an incredible job. All right, before we get into our next segment over here, let's just say lots of great comments coming through. Thank you very much. Good to see McLaren doing well. Just need to get Williams back in the mix maybe next year. That's from Leon. McLaren boys on a charge. Team is making great progress. And Candace says, oh, what to do with Grosjean? Yeah, as you say, Gary, it's so cutthroat. I don't think Nico Hulkenberg came back from his holiday expecting that he was going to get dropped the way that it's happened. But hopefully he will find something. I feel for Grosjean, but I agree with you. He just blows too hot and cold, in my opinion. Keep the comments coming through on our Facebook Live channel. And, of course, we will try and get through as many of your questions. If you have any questions, send them through to us, and, of course, we'll do that for you. Okay. Let's go a little bit back in time in the world of Formula One. A very famous world champion would have celebrated his birthday today. Can you guess? It's this man. What a face. What a driver. What a character. he would have been 72, Gary. And I was thinking, you know, on Instagram, they've got those, the face change or whatever, make your face older or whatever. And you sit and you take a picture of James Hunt and you think, could you imagine James Hunt at 72?
Just, you know, you almost couldn't. I think with the lifestyle that he lived, it was just fast-paced, on the track, off the track, wherever he went, and, you know, who knows. But I just, you know, what a great champion. I think from an era it was a very romantic era of Formula One.
Very dangerous, but romantic.
But it was exactly, and you know, it was kind of like why people love motor racing and why you get into motor racing. It was dangerous, it was fast, it was exciting, there was all kinds of things happening. And he was the epitome of all of that. You know, now you've got Raikkonen, who's got to keep it a little bit on the low down, but it still does it most probably. But yeah, it was just, you know, James Hunt, you know, just what a character. And you know, they made the movie, if you've seen the movie Rush, which according to Niki Lauda when he was alive said it was about 85% correct, and just, you know, what a remarkable story.
Yeah, you know, it's great that James Hunt is immortalised, and Niki Lauda, because we also lost Niki Lauda this year as well, are immortalised in the movie Rush. If you've never seen the movie Rush, you're missing out on something very, very special. Go and see it. Okay, time to get into our Throwback Thursday Formula One moment. There we go, one of the most calamitous starts in Formula One history. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. It did happen at Spa-Francorchamps. There's the picture on your screen. So post us a message on our Facebook live stream. When did that happen? What year is the year we're looking for? And what actually happened there afterwards in the race? Just, you know, a couple of words, send it through to us and we'll talk about that race in a few minutes from now. Well, we've had 13, is it 13 races or 12? I think it's 13.
12. Actually, I can't remember.
9, wait, hold on. He's won 9, 2, 2. No, it's 13. 13 races so far. Let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship at the moment, where everybody stands. See if anybody mathematically is possible to catch Lewis Hamilton. He's so far ahead. Okay, I'm trying to 12. It's 62 points ahead of Valtteri Bottas. But in third position, who would have called that at the beginning of the season, that Max Verstappen at this time of the season, Gary, would be in third position? Only 7 points behind Valtteri Bottas.
Well,
that is extraordinary.
Unreal, you know, and you know, going to the last race after the great results he's had, you sort of felt it had an outside chance here of doing something, but you know, we saw, I think, the actual pace of the car and where they were. But yeah, it's unreal. You know, and you've got to understand also, just for Honda being involved in Formula One. Remember the last time they were in Formula One, they jumped out of Formula One just as Ross Brawn had given them a car that was going to win the World Championship. They didn't know it at that point in time, but they reversed out of Formula One. Ross Brawn went and won the title. They couldn't not shape in Formula One this time around. They've had to stick it through. And I mean, to put them out there now, I mean, it must be just elation for that company.
Yeah, I think, you know what, hats off to Honda. I mean, that's also quite an amazing story, Gary, when you sit and think of the Brawn, the Brawn year of 2009. And just prior to Ross Brawn managing to secure the deal and actually getting the Mercedes engine. I mean, the crazy thing is they had that ghastly looking Honda car. And this is what a lot of people don't know, is that that year that Ross Brawn won the championship with a Mercedes engine was basically funded by Honda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite bizarre to think that.
Yeah, exactly. They did a great deal negotiating Honda's exit to look after the team, look after all the people in the team. I think Ross Brawn, outstanding, and Nick Fry at the time also involved in that. But yeah, it was unreal. But I think that also that really started the demise of McLaren. I think them Martin Whitmarsh allowing them to get that Mercedes-Benz engine was a big problem for McLaren, and really put them on the back foot for many years.
It really did. Looking at the mid-table there, Gary, I mean, Sainz looks pretty comfortable there in 7th position. Gasly now, we'll have to see what he does with Toro Rosso. But I mean, Raikkonen, Kvyat, Norris, Ricciardo, Stroll, Magnussen. all in with a shout there, to finish in the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship, which would be no mean feat when it comes to Formula One.
No, exactly. And I mean, you've got to look at Norris as somebody there, because he had that terrible result. Where was it? I think in France, he got knocked back in the last couple of laps. He's been up there. He's been threatening. So for sure, to get into the top 10 in your first season of Formula One at 18 years old, is something special.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, well, let's do the Constructors' Championship, and then we want to go back to Alexander Albon. Sorry, Fritz, I got you a little bit confused there. Let's look at our Constructors' Championship at the moment. I mean, it's just a walk in the park for Mercedes, but it's going to be incredibly close between Red Bull Racing, Honda, and Ferrari. Ferrari do not want to finish third. They haven't had a great season, but they've got 9 races maybe to pick up certain things. They've got some new updates, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Toro Rosso, unbelievable. Alfa Romeo in 7th place. They should be in 6th place because of the points they lost in Germany. I mean, do you think they've got an opportunity of turning that around, Gary?
Yeah, I think they do. They need one solid weekend, really. Get both cars on like they were doing in Germany before the issues there. But they need a solid weekend. I think they can do it. Let's see what happens this weekend. I mean, Kimi Raikkonen, may not be at the Grand Prix this weekend. So that would be a big knock for them to not have Raikkonen at Spa, of all places. Kimi's very, very quick there.
Yeah.
You want him in the car this weekend. So let's just hope that he can actually get there.
So a little bit earlier I said, why is Marcus Ericsson at Spa? Marcus Ericsson, of course, he's still the 3rd driver for the Alfa Romeo team. He's racing in IndyCar and going to be with McLaren next year in IndyCar racing. But he's at Spa this weekend because, well, he's nearly 40 years old. He's 40 years old. Apparently, he's pulled a muscle, Kimi Raikkonen. So they're just there as a precaution. But I couldn't... Spa without Kimi is not Spa.
No.
It's like the Schumacher. You don't go and watch Spa and there's no Schumacher there. It's the same as Kimi. So hopefully he's going to be okay. We'll find out tomorrow morning if he gets in the car or not.
Well, let's see what happens. But Ericsson was held back, I think, in the beginning of the week to going back to America to IndyCar. Let's see. It looks like Kimi's got some problems. You always wonder how the hell Kimi actually hurts himself. That's the thing. Although he's married and got kids nowadays, so it's probably a lot calmer.
Also, the other thing is, yes, they brought in Marcus Ericsson, Gary, just to be there, just as a precaution. But it might also be a little bit of a hurry up to Giovinazzi. Yeah. Ericsson didn't disgrace himself in Formula One.
No.
And he's done a great job in IndyCar. So I think he's learnt a lot about racecraft. So it's not a bad bet to bring back into the world of Formula One.
I don't think so. If you look at his performance against Leclerc last year, it wasn't bad. He was up there. So, there's races where he was really giving him a go. So I don't think it's a bad option. And like you said, it wouldn't be a bad test to have him in the car for the weekend just to see how Giovinazzi performs. Because the questions have got to be being asked there.
Yeah. All right. Before we get back to our Throwback Thursday moment, if we can go back, please, Fritz, to image number 13, Alexander Albon. That was the big news that came out during the summer break. All of a sudden, it was announced that Pierre Gasly was being dropped from Red Bull, and Alexander Albon is going to take his place. Now, fantastic. This guy he's just so likable. He speaks so well. He races fantastically. I mean, don't forget, in Germany, in the wet, was the first time he'd ever driven a Formula One car in the wet, and I think he scored in the points as well. A brilliant, brilliant young driver. But as you mentioned earlier, Gary, as well, is it not a poison chalice to be the teammate of Max Verstappen?
You sort of feel for the guy, and you're hoping now that he's going to be able to do a good enough job. Max Verstappen, nobody wants to be his teammate. It's like, do you want to be Lewis Hamilton's teammate? No. You want to be, you want to be Verstappen's teammate? Definitely not. In a team that's built around Verstappen, you've got to say that. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah,
so
without
Albon,
a doubt.
You would have expected maybe Kvyat to get that call, being more experienced. But
I'm glad you bring that up. Do you think Kvyat maybe was offered the opportunity and turned it down?
I think it's entirely possible. There was rumours of it. Remember a couple of races ago.
Because Albon wasn't really mentioned. It was like, okay, Gasly's not performing. Kvyat. Albon wasn't really mentioned. Bang! The next minute, Red Bull say Albon's there.
Yeah. So I mean, for as far as Kvyat's concerned, you've got to say to yourself, he's been there before. Up against Vettel in that team. He's rebuilt his Formula One career now. I think got a lucky break getting back with Toro Rosso. I think to go and put yourself up against Max Verstappen is a little bit suicidal. When you're on your second chance. So
Yes.
I would assume that maybe he would have turned it down. Maybe saying, look, maybe at the end of the year, if we finish off strong at Toro Rosso, maybe we can look at a Red Bull seat again.
Yeah.
Albon, I tell you what, he's got a mammoth task ahead of him. He's done exceptionally well, doing what he's doing. But it's going to be a huge job.
It's going to be very difficult. And also, by all accounts, he's actually, unfortunately, going to start at the back of the grid this coming weekend because he actually takes over the engine allocation of Pierre Gasly, and they're going to put a brand new engine into that car this weekend. And it seems as though he's going to start from the end of the grid, but we'll find out more during the course of the weekend.
It could be a better option for him. It works out quite well for him. Takes some pressure off, just lets him get on with his weekend without any massive expectation of racing. So maybe that works in his favour.
Yeah, very, very good point. Okay, let's go back to our Throwback Thursday Formula One moment. Where was this? Well, where we know where. What actually happened in that, and then what actually happened in the race? It was a crazy, crazy day of racing at Spa-Francorchamps. The year, Gary?
It was 98, wasn't it?
1998. All started by David Coulthard, who you can see has got no wheels. He's in the right-hand side of the Armco barrier there, and just everyone, unfortunately, spun around. Now, if that had to happen today, it's a complete disaster because there are no spare cars. But back in those days, there were spare cars, so everybody managed to get back in. They reassembled, went and got on with the race. But then it even got more and more crazy.
It did. I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened throughout the race, but all I do know is that we had these two yellow Jordans, in a position to win the Grand Prix.
You had Schumacher, who was leading by a country mile.
Coulthard, that's right.
And he was coming up to lap David Coulthard.
How could I forget that?
And Coulthard was on the racing line and slowed down. And Jean Todt went to Ron Dennis and make sure he doesn't get in there. And Schumacher smashed into the back of him, took his front right wheel off, made it to the pits faster than anybody else. We nearly got into fisticuffs with David Coulthard. And then, amazingly, the two Jordans. And they were told to hold position because Ralph Schumacher was actually going quicker than Damon Hill.
He was, indeed. Yeah.
And Eddie Jordan just said, hold your position. That was their first ever victory.
Yeah, and what a day for the team. But but that's the way that does in Formula One. It throws up some big surprises. It happens, rain. That's why it's dangerous. It's stressful for the drivers. The visibility is low. It's a difficult situation to race in. But for the spectator, sometimes it is exciting. It throws the cat amongst the pigeons sometimes.
Yeah, very much so. A couple of questions before we go into looking to this weekend and the weather. Of course, the weather is critical when it comes to the Ardennes Mountains. Alex is going to surprise everyone. He is an Aister. That's from Chad. Nice comment. Albon starting right at the back, good or bad for his first race? I think, Gary, you answered that one, saying maybe less pressure. So it might give him that opportunity. Also race through the field. The Honda's going to be very, very quick as well. So it's looking very good. Okay, this weekend, of course, it is the Belgian Grand Prix. Weather-wise, I can tell you I have been looking since Monday because I've been waiting for 4 weeks. So you get out of the depression. You go, Monday, what's going to be happening at Spa? So tomorrow and Friday, they're predicting about 28 degrees, 29 degrees on Saturday air temperature, which is very, very hot for Spa. But then all of a sudden, it drops down to 20 degrees on Sunday for race day. No rain is expected. But Gary, you know Spa very, very well. And I mean, it can be dry in one place and wet in another place.
Yeah, it certainly can. It's up in the Ardennes Mountains. There's always the possibility of rain, but these days the weather forecasts are not too bad. But just what a fantastic circuit in general. I mean, everybody loves going to Spa. It's a classic Formula One circuit. Some amazing corners. Just in a Formula One car, you stand at places like Eau Rouge, watch them go through there. You understand why these guys get paid the money they do when you see what they're doing through those sort of corners there.
Now, speaking of Eau Rouge, and I'm going to ask Fritz there, just if you can go to our circuit graphic, image number 19. We'll get to the tyres from Pirelli in a short while. There is I mean, it's 7.004 kilometers long. And there's this magic debate all of the time as to where is Eau Rouge. And a lot of people, unfortunately, think that Eau Rouge is actually when they are at the top of the hill, from the bottom to the top of the hill, which actually is called Radion. So Gary, why is it Eau Rouge?
Well, I think there's a river that runs through that valley, which if you haven't been there, it's a massive downhill from La Source into Eau Rouge and then up the hill after that. So in that valley, there's a little river that's called Eau Rouge, red water. If my French
There we go.
Eau
Rouge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, there is the circuit. I mean, it is just magnificent. There are three very, very potential overtaking positions. One is at La Source. If you get a good drive out of the bus stop and you can pass into turn one. But the big overtaking maneuvers are definitely at Le Coum. And then, of course, also down through Blanchimont at the bus stop. It's just a magnificent track, Gary. You've raced there. It must be a thrill to drive.
It's thrill. Well, the first time you ride, it's actually quite scary. You look at you and realize if you haven't been there before, the undulation. I mean, it's unbelievable. You walk up to Lake Coum and look back down at the pits in the valley. Which is still not at the bottom of the valley, actually. So it's an unbelievable circuit to be at. But I think the great thing, and if we spoke about the overtaking opportunities up to Lake Coum, I mean, it's really all set up from Eau Rouge.
Yes.
And that's the great thing. So you've got this fast corner, you've really got to get yourself sorted out, get a good drive, and that's where you're going to be able to overtake up that long straight.
There's also another wonderful opportunity. I remember seeing Mark Webber overtake Fernando Alonso. If somebody's coming out of La Source on
Yes.
good tyres,
Yes.
somebody's coming out of the pits on cold tyres. I mean, Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso going down into Eau Rouge right next to each other. I mean, I was there in '99 and I saw some horrible crashes going up Eau Rouge by both Zonta and by Jacques Villeneuve. It is hairy, Gary. You've got to really have your wits about you.
It really is. And look, I mean, today's runoff areas certainly help with a lot of the potential for big crash there. But it's that move between Alonso and Webber was outstanding as well. I mean, quite a sight to behold. But this is what Spa does. This is what Spa's about. It's about high speed. It's about motor racing. It's everything that motor racing is going to a track like this.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, this weekend, of course, the Pirelli are the tyre suppliers. Let's have a look at what tyres they are going to be, which is still very confusing though. The hard, the medium and the soft tyres, otherwise known as C1, C2 and C3. I don't think anybody in the whole of this season in terms of the commentary have referred to them as C1, C2 or C3. We go with hard, medium and soft. I don't know why they changed it, but that's what they're going to have. Also, the drivers, if you aren't aware, are entitled to choose their allocation of what amount of compounds they actually want per Grand Prix. As you can see, not a lot of people going for the hard tyre, although the hard tyre has surprised us in pretty warm conditions in the way that they have survived. So that could well be a strategy option, Gary.
It could be, but I think looking at the temperature we spoke about as well, the temperature drop on Sunday, I think is going to play. So these guys are trying as best as they can to sort of look into that and try to understand what the conditions are going to be. Obviously, never going to get it spot on, but it's all about getting the tyres up to the right temperature, and that's where these guys are playing. So what is it going to be on the day? How are you going to set up, and can you get the tyres to work in the correct window?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm so looking forward to is qualifying on Saturday. It's just something so special where these guys race around 7 kilometers, Gary, and it's 0.1 of a second. I mean, it just shows you how good they are.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and you mentioned it. I mean, it's a long track, so to be that close on a long track is something outstanding. But this is Formula One. It's the pinnacle of the sport. We have the best drivers, or we should have the best drivers in the world in Formula One. And that's why we see these kind of gaps that you do. But also, it's amazing. You've got different cars, different engines, and they're all within that tiny space.
All right. Speaking of different cars, different engines, Ferrari are coming with new downforce updates. It's not really a huge downforce track, but I think they need to find out where their problems are. But both Mercedes and Honda are coming with their Stage 3 engines. So this, might create a bit of a worry for Ferrari, because so far, or in the last couple of races, they seem to be third best.
Yeah, they certainly do. I think exactly the worry from Ferrari is going to be Red Bull now with this new engine.
Yeah.
And I mean, can you imagine the amount of enthusiasm at Honda right now that's been put into that engine, that development? I believe the department's sort of tripled in size over the years since they came back to Formula One with McLaren. I mean, everybody must be on a high, so they're just doing everything they can now to produce the goods now. So, listen, they may have a good weekend. I think to beat Mercedes at Spa with what they've got, I think is going to be tough. There's no two ways about it. But I think Ferrari, that's where they're taking the fight to.
Yeah. A couple of points here. Edwin says, two-stop race. If it's dry conditions, more than likely you're going to start off on the soft and hopefully go through with the medium. It all depends. Spa is one of those circuits as well where, if somebody does get out in the front, Gary, it can lead to be a slightly processional. Unfortunately, it's because it is so long. But it doesn't detract from just I mean, just the fun of driving that circuit.
You know, we've had some great races this year.
Yeah.
We've had a bum race in France, which I think the track is great for testing, but obviously not so good for racing. And, you know, they've really been good. And some of the races you've sat back and said, oh, well, you know, a little bit boring, but the last 10, 15 laps have been absolutely crackers.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that we're going to get something going on this weekend at Spa. I think Hamilton's the one that could spoil the party for us. If he does get out front, does work well for him, he could run away. But if he doesn't, we could see something different happening.
Yeah, there we go. Ed 1 2-stop race, more than likely a one-stopper, but you never know. You can have crashes, you can have safety car incidents as well. Grant says, best overtake ever. I suppose a lot of people always think about Mika Hakkinen going on the right of Ricardo Zonta and Michael Schumacher going down the left into Lecombe. Yeah, I mean, it was just a special moment. And I saw Mika Hakkinen actually talking about it this past weekend as well. So there we go. Listen, thank you so much for all of the engagement. We can't go through everything because we also just trying to learn how this all works.
That's when my phone rang, so apologies for that. I was trying to do whatever I was trying to do. I don't know how this Facebook
we're not entirely sure how it works, but as long as you can see it, we're getting asked, is there going to be a podcast? Of course, it will be reloaded up onto my Facebook page, F1 Sasha. We'll put it up on the PitBox page on YouTube as well, and also on race day. So we will post all of that as well. Gary, final thoughts? I mean, you've sat there and said, you know, if Lewis gets out there in front, you know, he's definitely going to be a guy to watch.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to see a very, very strong Mercedes-Benz this weekend. You've got to, you know, obviously you want to see a close race and some exciting racing, but you've got to look at it for what it is. They're the package to beat.
Yeah, I must say I have a feeling that Ferrari are going to turn up the wick a little bit. They have to come back with something strong. They say they aren't bringing their new engine. Maybe this current engine is strong enough. Let's hope for a great race. Also, listen, if you're in the Johannesburg area at the Baron this coming Sunday, we'll also have the PitBox Live. You can come and join me and enjoy the race there. I hope to see you. It's always a lot of fun. But a huge thank you to Fritz, who's our producer, Henk, and all of the guys here at raceday.tv. It's been brilliant to have our first live stream, the PitBox show. And we'll be giving you a Thursday night show at 7 p.m. before every race. So if there are 2 weeks between races, we won't be on that Thursday night. We'll only be on the Thursday before race day. This weekend, Belgium, I can't wait for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, Spa's a great one. It's one of the most exciting ones out there. And I think for the rest of the season, we've got Spa, we've got Monza, so it's a good time of the season for us.
It's going to be amazing. With Vic in absentia and from Gary and myself, thank you for joining us on the PitBox. We will catch you next Thursday right here. Take care. Ciao, ciao.